Your attention, please. Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
What's the airport? Lisbon. Gimpo, right?
Flight 87 to Gimpo.
Oh, yeah. So I love that city. It's one of those few cities where I can't wait to get back there. I can't wait. Something has drawn me back, so I need to find an excuse in 2019 to get back to Seoul.
Actually, the reason we're doing it is twofold. One is because I'm finally going to talk about that big flight I've done that includes landing in Seoul, not at Gimpo. And that comes to the second reason, which is it's almost to the day 10 years ago I set foot for the first time in Seoul, and my first experience ever in an airport there was not in Incheon, but was Gimpo, which is the other airport. So I found it was not a bad idea to talk about it today. Yes, we know, guys, we talked about Lisbon and Karachi and Hamburg and other airports. They're all coming.
Yes.
We have more than almost 20 airports that I've marked down that we should cover, that we mentioned that we will be covering, and that we've been to recently that we haven't done yet. So, well, lots and lots of airports. And you're going to one new as well. We keep adding them.
Yes, I am. Yeah, Mexico City.
Flying today, right?
Yep.
So today is Monday, the 28th of January, but as you've heard in our last episode, which is already very successful, thank you guys, this will come probably out on February the 8th to allow for 2 weeks between the episodes and also to allow us to come back in front of our microphones to record another one. Where will you be on February 8th? Will you be back in London by then?
Probably. Yeah, I think I will be, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be transferring from Sunnyvale to San Francisco, which is a huge haul, right?
Yeah,
that day.
Miles. Although the traffic will probably warrant, a flight.
Can you fly from San Jose Airport to?
You cannot, but it would be great if you could, because the traffic is so bad that you can probably get to LA on a flight by then. So,
My God! Oh well. So, let's start with what we ended with in the last episode. We're late because of you dumbass.
Yes, this story... Are you talking to me? This story that we ended on, which was breaking news, literally as we ended the last episode, of this hijacking, which is obviously very serious business. But mercifully, unfortunately, this one ended without incident. The flight diverted. It was a drunk... It seems to be almost always drunk passengers these days, which I think is good, isn't it? Not legit He wanted to go somewhere, Afghanistan, maybe?
I think so, yeah. The flight left from Surgut, which is in Siberia to Moscow. Yeah. The guy pretended he had a weapon and asked for the flight to be diverted to Afghanistan, which is insane.
Yeah, it is insane. And they diverted quickly, and he's going to spend the rest of his life in a gulag somewhere. But all's well that ends well. I don't think anybody was hurt or injured, no. Not at least not physically. So
the guy didn't even have a weapon. He was just drunk.
Oh, my God.
And the quote I started with, which was not directed at you, Alex, obviously, was the quote from one of the passengers, because somebody filmed with his or her phone when the police entered the aircraft and arrested the man, and the people were yelling at him, actually.
Yeah, and that was the quote that ended the article, was, "We're late because of you, you dumbass," which I think is just fantastic.
No EU compensation there, however. On Instagram, Fly with Alexandra answered a question that I asked in our last episode, which is, should I choose S7 or Aeroflot to go to Moscow?
Yes.
She says that Aeroflot has updated. It's a better quality and is actually fine. Of course, that's the national carrier, if you want. She says that the S7 is a younger, less posh airline, but with its own style. In a nutshell, my impression is Aeroflot is kind of United style, while S7 is more like JetBlue or Virgin.
Yeah, that's
that kind of settles it.
It does settle it. I would be very interested, either way, whichever airline you choose, to hear how that goes and how you enjoy it and what your impressions are. I've never flown on either of them.
So if I'm flying from London, I might choose one of these two. Obviously, as we all know, you and me sometimes have to have these strange routes, and I'll end up flying some weird airline from Uzbekistan or something, right?
That's exciting, though. I think that's fun.
Yeah. Another comment on Instagram from number 9 Legends, N09 Legends. He really likes our show, great chit chat. He understands that we have challenges to finding the time to record. Yes, you see, we're trying. We're even compensating for shows we might not be able to record otherwise, even if Alex has to run through the airport just after this finishes. Yeah. And he's doing the layovers game, just going backwards and listening to old shows. Yeah, well, thank you. I don't know how I feel about that. We always say that our oldest episodes do not have that kind of
polish
interaction. Yeah, they don't. And he says that we are always in lounges, which is true. And he directs us to a video of a channel called Cara and Nate. I've never seen it. They talk about travel and lounges. And in this video that I'll put one day, if I ever have the time again to put the notes on the website, some of the coolest lounges as well, including the Pier, which we both love and adore. It's probably our favorite to both of us. The Qantas First Lounge in Sydney, which looks really, really nice. And the JAL First Lounge in Tokyo. And yes, this is the one I've been to in December, which I'll finally talk about now. So let's start with where I started. I was supposed to fly from London to Incheon and then Tokyo. Then I receive a message. You remember, guys, I think I told the story that, well, Ethiopian, which is the flight I was supposed to take from Incheon to Tokyo, had changed the schedule, and suddenly I would have had only 45 minutes in Incheon to transfer. According to Star Alliance, it was not enough, so they rebooked me, and I had to go through Frankfurt, obviously.
The universe is just messing with you at this point.
Yeah. So the bad thing is I missed the opportunity to fly Asiana 350 because that's what they use on now from London to Incheon. The good thing is I had the opportunity to fly their 380 from Frankfurt to Incheon. But first, Frankfurt, you know what? The 6th or 7th time to charm, you remember, guys, I kept going back. For the first time, it was a Sunday. I had a bridge. For the first time ever, I didn't have a bus. I had a bridge at Frankfurt. And the airport, maybe because it was a Sunday, which I never usually do, flying on weekends, was absolutely empty. It was so easy. And for the first time ever, I was like, okay, this is how it should be feeling like. It was nice. It was a Christmas period, because we're talking just before Christmas, obviously. At Heathrow, when I was boarding at security, and I don't know if you've seen that, Alex, there was special signs for Christmas about what you were able to take on board or not, like the Christmas crackers, for instance, right?
Snow globes always cause a problem.
So snow globes is exactly where I wanted to go to, because they said, okay, snow globes up to 100 mil were accepted, obviously, and not others. And one passenger on my flight was also having to fly somewhere outside of Frankfurt because we were basically tagging each other along by complete coincidence. And when he was at the dreaded Frankfurt security, well, he smashed his snowball on the ground. There was water everywhere. The poor guy.
Oh, no. How embarrassing. And also how disappointing if you've gone and you found this snow glove and,
I felt so bad for him, and everybody was kind of looking like so disappointed for him. Oh, well, that happens. So do not, guys, bring us snow globes on. Have you ever traveled with a snow globe?
I don't think so. No.
And then, what we always say, I was at the Frankfurt lounge, the Senator Lounge, which, because there was a flight from ANA about to depart, was freaking amazing, because every time there's a Japanese flight, lounges up their game, and clearly it was the case. It's a rule. We should always fly when there's a Japanese flight somewhere.
Yeah.
And that was when the story I kept mentioning, I think the last 2 episodes happened. I was in that lounge, and this about 50-year-old British woman, completely wasted in the lounge, was talking to the phone so loud, so no headphones or whatever, on some kind of FaceTime, I guess, because she was looking at her phone. She was like, I knocked myself out with champagne and whiskey from Mexico, actually, where you're going to today. So she just had arrived from Mexico, and she was so wasted because everybody could overhear our discussion. She was saying that I forgot my shoes and my coat in the Mexico lounge. I only have flip-flops and the Lufthansa blanket. So she was so wasted from the start that she forgot most of the things at the lounge, flew without everything, and arrived in Frankfurt. We were super cold without nothing. She was still laughing. I mean, it was, oh my God. I mean, I don't know. She was a movie, man. She was a movie by herself. I thought there was like some camera somewhere.
And also, I mean, you think about the security issue as well. If you've left a bunch of stuff in an airport somewhere, that's going to cause some problems.
And she obviously didn't give a damn about all this, because there was at some point one staff of the lounge that came that says, yeah, your flight is about in 10 minutes. She says, yeah. And then she goes on to serve herself another drink and goes for a cigarette. You're like, whatever.
Give me a break.
Anyway, she kept mentioning that she was on Snapchat, and I was about to say, I need to add you on Snapchat because I want to follow the stories all over the world.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh, well. What I didn't know, and I should have, Frankfurt is building a third terminal. I learned that when I was there. Because that will expand the capacity of the airport by 15 to 25 million people. So that, wow. And they will be part Schengen, part non-Schengen. That will open in 2023, but they are opening a first bit a bit earlier, 2021, which will be for low cost. So there will be a new airport and a new passenger mover. There's already one, but it's not going to be an extension of that. There's going to be a second one. So might be more tunnels you have to run through.
No.
Anyway, to the Asiana 380. I had flown Asiana 380, but in first class from Incheon to New York. That was 2 years ago now. The business class was pretty nice. It's the seat. It's almost the underdog of business seats. It's what Iberia has, what Etihad has on its non-studio seats. There's a few other airlines. Garuda has it as well. It's a seat that is not impressive by its looks. It's very, nondescript. But I like it because, you know what? It's actually very large. It actually has a lot of space. It doesn't have a lot of storage. That's the only issue. But it is a really nice seat. It's, you know what? A lot of the airlines nowadays seem to be going for seats that are impressive, with a lot of gadgets. This one is simple, I guess, but it is actually really well. The only issue is if you're on the AL side, you're very open. There's no privacy. But as I had one on the Windows side, it was really private and I really liked it. And because it was the 380 and we were on the upper deck, that storage thing I just mentioned wasn't an issue because, of course, you have this thing on the side, which are godsend.
I quite like those.
They are really good, right?
You have way more opportunity to put a bunch of things in there that you would perhaps have had to shove in a bag that would go in the overhead bin, and you would. So I like those. I think they're nice. They used to have them. Well, they still do have them on some airlines on the upper deck of the 747 as well, which I think
absolutely
is a nice touch.
Actually, have you heard that we now know the schedule of retirement of British Airways 747?
No, I didn't see this.
I think last to be retired 2022, 2023, or something like that. So
That's
it's
not
that
long.
long. No, it's not long. They are starting to retire the ones that they're not going to refurbish. The ones that were refurbished will be retired last, obviously. The first one to be retired is a 28-year-old 747, which, when you think about it, it's due time.
Yeah, that's an old airplane that has done its work and probably been with BA for its entire career.
Yeah, actually, probably, exactly.
Which is quite extraordinary.
So go back to Asiana. Have you ever flown Asiana yourself?
No, I haven't.
So Asiana, it's I really like them. It's Asian companies, so of course, usually the quality of service is very high, and it was. The quality of the food is very high, and it was. Everything is very high, but there's something a bit regimented in their tone of voice. I mean, it seems that they're very process based, as in, look, you, Alex, are sitting on your seat. The service is about to start, but you're not aware of that. You go to the bathroom. When you come back, and if your seat has already been passed by, let's say you're sitting on row 3 and they're on row 4, You come back, you sit. They will not come back to you on row 3. They will go up the end of the business class cabin and then only come back to you. It seems that they have a very process-based way of doing things. And that repeats itself on everything. When they're serving, for instance, the entree, they don't seem to be taking a look at the fact that your glass might be empty. They're going to first deliver the food to everyone, then might be doing a run for you know what I mean?
That's really interesting.
It seems a bit regimented. I'm not saying it's bad. Again, the quality of service is, but when you compare that with some of the airlines that have a tone of voice that is more friendly in terms of how they address you, but also in how they behave, it felt a bit regimented. I already felt that when I was flying first class with them. It's interesting. Maybe it's cultural, but it's very interesting that I noted this, right? I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait for my turn if you want.
It's funny, isn't it? I think that's the key to a great passenger experience in the soft product is understanding a process that is really efficient and allows you to deliver food and drink in a timely manner, but also training staff to find those exceptions to the process and address them as well.
Yeah. For instance, it felt that everybody had like, let's say, 2 servings of the wine, and that was it. They were like, I was like, can I have a little bit more? You know, it felt I had to ask, and they were like, oh, okay. And it felt it was not part of what they were doing. I mean, I don't know. It's not that, I never get wasted in flights. I'm not going to take for my 6th class or something, but it felt a bit like that. They also came, and I know that's a pet peeve of yours, they also came to pick up the menus after dinner, just they wanted to have them all, which, I get. And at the same time, you're like, when you pay that amount of money, can you just not leave us the menu?
I understand that it's environmentally friendly and cost conscious. Yeah. So, but it is disappointing because I do like them. I mean, I don't collect a bunch of stuff, but I do like to keep the menus from, especially if it's on an unusual airline or an unusual route. I like to keep them, and they probably cost 10 cents to manufacture, and I'm not chucking them. I'm keeping them. So that is a bit frustrating. Everything else, keep, Yeah.
For the rest, I mean, the IFE is okay. I'm saying okay, not great because it lacks a bit of content. I really hate these airlines. They have like TV shows. They have only 1 episode per TV show. Like, why?
Oh, I know.
I mean, do not read that, guys, into disappointment. I'm just saying it felt sometimes that they were not going the extra mile in the experience overall. But again, I had a fantastic flight. It was really nice. I slept super well. I actually, when I woke up, there was a note, some kind of post-it on my screen because I had missed breakfast, and they were asking if I should just press the button if I wanted to be served an express breakfast. So there's little things like that work. No, it works. Again, do not see it as negative. The amenity limited, but you have socks and a great eye mask actually, which I appreciate. And what is notable is that their pillow and duvet is, because they have both, is really nice. So no, it's a nice airline. I would fly them again, especially because I'm on Star Alliance. Then I arrived at Incheon and I had to do transfer security, and something that already had happened at Heathrow, but I wasn't sure that it was the case. Now, by then I was. Frankie, whom you met when you came to Japan with me the first time in 2016, had offered me a year ago a t-shirt of Star Wars with Darth Vader on it. And I had that, because I liked it. And actually, that t-shirt would trigger security every single time I passed by.
What?
I had nothing on. Yeah. I was like, is that because it's Darth Vader?
That's weird.
It would ring every time. It was really funny. So actually, that t-shirt, and I told Frankie, he laughed, I don't know what it is that he had inside, but it clearly had to trigger the thing. Because, you see sometimes when you go to these newer machines, when you put your hands up, they have a screen which tells them where they should look for potential stuff.
Yeah.
And clearly the potential stuff was on my chest where Darth Vader was.
That's so weird. I wonder if it's like the material that the design is printed on with or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I know that I'm not going to wear that t-shirt again at airports. I mean, okay, it was fun. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just that it was notable. Wow. The lounge at Incheon from Asiana is very nice. It has this quirk. They have these beer mugs. They're made out of plastic, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's fine. And there's a hole in the bottom.
Like they do in U.S. sports stadiums. And a few here, too.
Here, I've never seen that in the
Yeah,
UK,
Wembley and the new Tottenham Stadium has them. Yep. From what I understand.
But these ones are still plastic, but they actually look like a proper mug.
Cool.
The handle and everything. And you just, you push them down on the machine and the beer comes up. It's pretty interesting.
It's supposed to produce a better head.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well, those Japanese machines are not bad either. The ones that swivel.
Yes. Those are so cool.
And when I was, I think I mentioned him in the last episode, Charlie Gibson, 1976 on Instagram. When I was sitting in the lounge, he had sent me a message on Instagram and sent me, hey, all during your flight on Asiana, you were tagged by a 747 next to each other for the whole duration from
I see.
Frankfurt. And that 747 was sitting in front of me in the lounge. It was like, hey, Charlie, this is just coincidence. It's just right there. Anyway, thank you, Charlie, for always doing this kind of stuff for me. Zane Zanengi, who actually gave us a nice review in the last episode, says about that Asiana lounge that it's not bad at all, nothing remarkable, but just quiet and efficient. And sometimes that's all you're looking for. And I think he's right. It's exactly that. It was a nice lounge to stay in. I had to stay for 5 hours. So I was kind of happy to have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then Ethiopian. So first of all, it's really cool to have these fifth freedom routes that give you Ethiopian from Incheon to Narita when you think about that.
Yeah, I love those little routes that pop up from time to time.
Ever flown them?
Nope.
So first of all, they do a service probably from Addis to Incheon, and then they have the ability to onboard extra passengers to continue. The cabin was not full, which was great. It was in business class. It was, it was almost empty. So it was fantastic. I'll come to that in a minute. But you know what? It's one of these experiences within 30 seconds of entering the aircraft, I fell in love with the airline.
Really?
Like, I don't know what it was. There's a lot of things when you describe them factually that don't make it an airline up to the big airlines we always talk about. But there's something in the atmosphere, in the tone of voice that makes it absolutely fantastic. The smiles, man, the smiles. I felt welcome in an aircraft as I had never felt welcome in probably, 10 years or something. Is there like one experience that you remember has been felt so welcome when you enter an airline recently?
I don't think so. Not for a long time. I'll tell you what, maybe when I flew first in Cathay, but it's easy for them because it's such a small cabin, and it's built into who they are. But no, I can't think of one.
Yeah, because here again, the seat. So it's a Dreamliner. The seat is 222. Is one of these seats that some Chinese airlines still have. Probably Air France and KLM used to have. KLM maybe still has it on some aircrafts. So it's nothing special. You're in business class. You have a person next to you. In that case, I had no one because, again, the cabin was not full. The decor is, pretty white. So in terms of what you see, there's nothing that you're like, oh, wow, look at this, so different. When you enter like a Dreamliner for Qatar, the color, everything feels like there's nothing like that. But the crew makes everything. They were so smiling, welcoming, laughing with me. It's as if I was talking to friends. It's pretty epic. It's really, really, really epic. It's so engaging. And I was like, okay, wow, I'm completely in love with that. The safety video, for instance, is super fun. The safety video, you can feel that, they probably don't have as much means as an Emirates and etc. So it's a video that you and me could have filmed ourselves. It's handheld camera. And when, for instance, they talk about the oxygen mask, you see a little girl putting the oxygen mask on her bunny. Or when they're talking about where are the emergency exits, you see, like say you take a pair of binoculars looking in the aircraft for the emergency exits. Or when they talk about the vests and how you're supposed to have the vest, they basically... It's filmed, all the people in the video are clearly crew from the airline. Somebody has a vest and jumps in a swimming pool. Literally. But you know what?
It's a lot of character.
Exactly. It works. I loved it. And it kept me actually engaged for the whole thing, actually. It was really, 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 really nice. The food, man. The food was absolutely
I was going to ask you about that because I'm really interested to know if it's... What is it? Is it sort of Ethiopian food, or was it more Asian because of the route that you were going?
So they had first Ethiopian wine, which of course, when I saw that on the menu, was like, of course I'm going to try that.
Wow.
And it was really, really good. I was like, okay, now I know, and now I need to try that again, actually.
Wow.
It was very surprising. And yes, the food had like Ethiopian flavors. Yes. What I really... Again, compare that to what I just said about Asiana. And I'm not here again to diss Asiana, but I said, it was very regimented and process-based. You receive your tray, and everything is massive on it. They're like, they give you like ketchup that feels like you could have it for 3 weeks. They give you mayo. They give you Tabasco. They give you everything, all the flavoring, all the little spices and stuff on the side. But not, the tiny... pouches, for instance, but like almost like an entire bottle for each and every passenger. They are like very generous in the amount of food that they are giving to everyone. And the wine, like I said, or the water, it was, again, compare that to what I just had. I couldn't even have my glass half drunk that, again, somebody would have pulled in.
That's the attentiveness, isn't it, that we were talking about?
Exactly.
That was the word I was looking for when you were talking about Asiana, that attentiveness.
Yeah, they do pay attention. They really do pay attention. What was very fascinating in terms of, I don't know if it's crew management and how they do it. They were like, maybe too many crews for the number of people that we were in the flight, probably because a lot of people had disembarked at Incheon and the flight was going with less people. But what is interesting is that it seemed that every single time somebody came, so first the person to give me the tray and someone to serve me the wine, every single time was a different person. They all paid attention. There was not one that was dedicated to me.
That's
they were all
unusual.
paying attention. And all of them, huge smiles, how are you, chit chat. I was like, oh my God, this is so friendly. I adored it, man. I mean, they're known to be, probably now one of the, if not the best or the most progressive airline in Africa. Everybody says
they have a very good reputation.
I can vouch for them, and again, if you talk about just, the seat itself, the IFE, which was okay. I didn't, the flight is only an hour and 40 minutes. It was not that long to try everything, but no, it's not up to, obviously, the Cathays, the Emirates, etc. But, the crew, their attentiveness and their engagement and their smiles, especially their smiles, makes for everything. I mean, honestly.
Wow, that's a glowing review if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. And you asked me what I had, a fried chicken. It was absolutely fantastic. Nice. It was, again, it was simple. Again, it was not like probably, over the top complicated food, but my God, it was good.
Yeah.
My God, it was good. It was, really, really good.
Wow.
Oh, and to finish off this, like you finish off food with coffee.
Of course,
they had Ethiopian coffee.
Oh my goodness.
That was specially brewed, and that was absolutely delicious. Probably the best coffee I had ever in flight.
Wow.
See, little things, little touches that make it up for the fact that if you look at the pure hard product, okay, it's a Dreamliner, which is great, but the rest, you say, it's in the average, nothing. But I would fly them again, and I want to fly them to Africa, actually, now.
Wow.
So, yeah. Guys, if you have ever flown Ethiopian, tell us, maybe am I over the moon too much about them? Probably, maybe, I don't know. But, there was even, there was clearly a pilot that was, because probably, they have to do like load balancings of the crews and the pilots. It was a pilot that was in the business class. They are sitting. He came to talk to me, and he was still in his pilot attire. So probably he was the one who flew the aircraft to Incheon, and then he was like off duty. It was such cool. The guy probably was younger than me. It was so cool to talk to him. The love he had for the airline, for his own company, it was amazing. I mean, I don't know, man. It was fantastic. It's refreshing.
It's kind of a fairy tale, really, isn't it? Ethiopian Airlines, because you and I are old enough to remember the hardship that country went through, especially in the 80s. And now, it's a reasonably stable democracy. It's a thriving country in Africa, as you say. It's one of the, a massive success story in Africa. The airline is outstanding. But what makes me so happy about this is they're not the only one.
The one, sorry to interrupt you, Alex, the one that I keep hearing about is Rwanda Airline.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And the reason I got thinking about it was there's on the attaché, when I log onto YouTube, it's on Attaché, and of course, they get recommended all of these travel sites. And the one that keeps coming up is, I think it's The Economist or FT or somebody saying Rwanda is the next hot thing. And then, of course, Arsenal are sponsored by Rwandair. Visit Rwanda. And I watched the Manchester United FA Cup game against Arsenal. I saw that. And so I had a little quick Google on it. And not only is the campaign for visiting Rwanda so interesting and so good, but the airline, I've heard nothing but good things about, and they fly to Gatwick.
Yeah, I was looking last year as an alternative to going to the Maldives. I was looking at going to Rwanda to see the gorillas. And I looked at Rwanda Air, and the prices are super competitive, and they have very new aircraft, and the product looks really cool, and the reviews are all glowing. So yeah, I will fly them eventually, for sure.
Yeah, me too.
And I really hope that other African airlines, I mean, again, guys, we know this is a continent where we don't talk about a lot simply because we don't know it and we don't fly there. So it's not because we don't want to. Of course, Alex has done South Africa, but have you ever flown South African Airways?
Yes.
And?
No, they've gone through so many incarnations, it's hard to compare, but I know, you know who we should get? Cobus, if you're listening.
Cobus, yeah.
Cobus travels intra-South Africa more than anybody I know, and he actually sent me some recommendations. Tell us your thoughts on South African Cobus and anybody else that flies regularly, and if they're not great, some intra and in and out of South Africa recommendations would be very interesting to hear.
Yes. So I land at Narita. I know, guys, people prefer Haneda. I still like Narita. I still find that it's very good to go now that they have fast links to the city. And it's actually now less busy because Haneda has taken a lot of international flights, which means that immigration is super quick compared to Haneda, which can be, and I hope that they change that for the Rugby World Cup this year and the Olympics next year, but Haneda can be really long. That was super quick. One of the things that I didn't realize that they have expanded, we mentioned that at the low-cost terminal of Narita, Terminal 3, they had used this signage on the ground as if it's track and field, so running tracks to tell you where to go. It's now also in the other terminal. So as soon as I landed, I exited from the door, the gate, and there were these directional carpets, if I may call them like that, and to lead us to immigration. It's really well done. It's very simple visual cue, and you don't have to think, and you just walk and you arrive in front of immigration. Very well done. That
is clever. I've always wondered how effective those are. They must clearly be, because one's natural instinct when looking for directions is to look up and look for signs. But they've done it at Paddington Station here. There's all of those paths on the floor to take you not just within the station to the Heathrow Express and to ticket offices, but also to local attractions isn't the right word, but things like the passport office. So it clearly works.
In a world when everybody is looking down on their phones, maybe it actually works better.
True. Good point.
So, and you know what? From exiting the plane to the curb, it took me, and I'm not kidding, I didn't have any checked luggage, right? It took me 7.5 minutes. I'm not kidding. For Narita, 7.5 minutes. Never happened to me before. Wow. I mean, I told you guys it's faster now because less immigration. That day I was probably lucky from the timing and everything else, but 7.5 minutes for an international airport, that's amazing.
It's extraordinary.
That's extraordinary, exactly. It's also the 40th year of Narita. Actually, I didn't know that. There were like signs all over the place and, celebrations. But at least it was. I don't know if it's 2018 or 2019 now, because I'm talking about being there in 2018, obviously. But so happy birthday, Narita, for all the... Again, guys, if you want to hear about the story of Narita, episode 50 is the one you should go to. So I'm back at Narita when I was leaving. I'm not going to talk about my stay in Japan. Obviously, it was a fantastic... All the friends...
I saw some photos, I'm very jealous.
I stayed at a new hotel called Tokyo Stream. So as I keep saying to everybody I meet, for me, the new center of Tokyo is Shibuya. It's a new tower. That's where Google is going to relocate. In that tower, actually, next to Shibuya Station, they have a hotel. It had just been opened 3 weeks before I was there. Man, you know what? So practical because, again, for the Narita Express, I come out of the Narita Express. It takes me 2 minutes and I in the hotel, which is pretty fantastic.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to use that again. Anyway, so I'm back to Narita, and yes, clearly there's no more whiskey ever because I tried to find any type of whiskeys. There's like everything is sold out, man. Yeah. It's just crazy. There was one bottle, it was $7,000.
What?
I don't remember. I have the picture on my phone. I forgot to look it up for this show, but that was it. and you know, the horrible thing is that because the duty-free has the agreement with Suntory, they don't have any of the other Japanese whiskeys. So if you want to the Nikka, for instance, since there's no agreement between, I guess, a distillery and a duty-free operator, they basically have no Japanese whiskey in the duty-frees in Japanese airports, which is really sad.
I've noticed that on every flight, every trip I've done to Japan. There's none at all.
Yeah, because I guess they have like this long-running contract. And the thing is, since there's no stock, well, they just display the bottles and say out of stock, and that's it.
Yes,
it's really dire.
And I made that mistake twice on my first 2 trips to Japan of assuming that would be the natural and obvious place to get good Japanese whiskey at a good price, and it's not. So, like I said, Paris, Charles de Gaulle, that's the place to do it.
One redeeming quality for Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, exactly.
I might be there actually tomorrow, man. I haven't bought my ticket, but I might have to do a last-minute trip to Paris. And right now, the flights are less expensive than the Eurostar, so we'll see. We'll talk about that in the next episode. But I guess the next episode will be a lot about Mexico, obviously. So, JAL. I was flying JAL to come back. The check-in service, superb. I've never flown JAL from Haneda, so I cannot compare. But everything was great. The one thing that I really loved is we talked about it every time we talk about Haneda, these weird rules to access fast track, which airline you fly in, which card you have, which class of service you have, and they refuse you half of the time, even though you were supposed to be able to go there. No such thing at Narita.
Haneda drives me crazy for that because every time I feel like surely I'm allowed to go in this time. No. The only thing is it's a Japanese airport. It's pretty efficient. I've never really had to wait that long. And the last time I was there with my kids, they escorted us to the very, very, I guess it's the west end of the terminal or east end of the terminal. And yeah, of course, there was the family queue and they carried out. That's just Japan. It's Asia.
Especially in Japan, going to a normal lane is never an issue. I was just saying that I saw it and I said, oh, let me try. And there was no sign, whatever. It was easy. The person was talking in English. I mean, it was really...
So there weren't these... Okay, so what is it about Haneda that is, requires this, if-then statement,
I mean, probably now there's way more people flying from Haneda, including a lot of people that have like some type of card or whatever. It creates a lot of uncertainty and they wanted to... To be honest, I don't know. Maybe it's going to get better because it's just that the rules don't seem to always make sense. At least I give that to Narita. It was just easy in. And again, I would have gone to the normal lane. It's also very efficient. It was just like, let's see if it works. Let's see if I can go. And as soon as I pass, of course, there's immigration. And just in front of immigration, once you've passed it, there's the Sakura Lounge, the first class lounge of Japan Airlines. And wow, it's really, really nice. It's not the pier, but it's really, really nice. It's not that big. The one thing that stands out, because I saw it as soon as I entered in, there's a shoe shining service. But when I say shoe shining service, you do not sit on a chair and somebody shines your shoe. It's actually you go to a counter, a desk, you give your leather shoes, they give you slippers, and then they call you when it's done. And they have all these old-fashioned wooden equipment, like you would see in the movies when they actually take, and in the open, so you can see them, working on the shoes, and they take lots of care. Well, I mean, I had boots on me, and I was like, should I try? No, but it was fantastic. Honestly, that's a very nice touch. I don't know if it's actually useful, but I love it.
Yeah.
And I said the lounge is not that big, so at some point, there was a PA announcement that said that the lounge was getting busy, that there's a second lounge on one of the satellites. And since my gate would have been there, I said, you know what? Let's see just to check the other lounge. And that other Sakura lounge also has a first and a non-first class section. Actually, there's 2 floors there. It's better, for one thing, it has all the views on the airfield. Yeah, because that first one I just mentioned has some views, but limited views. The only downside to that second one is that the food is more restricted. It's more to have probably just some snacks and then leave. There's no like a full restaurant service, whereas in the first one, there's actually a full restaurant service. So there you go. If you ever have the choice, guys, views or food.
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah, and I checked, by the way, for those who don't have access to Emerald, so One World, or are not flying in first class. I was not, guys. Let's be completely here honest. I didn't fly in first class. I checked the business class one. It's also very nice. Interestingly, they choose different kind of colors. The colors on the business class is more lighter wood tones, and the one in first class is darker wood tones. So you immediately know in which one it. In terms of brand, it works really well, I think.
Nice.
So I entered the JAL. It's the first time in the Dreamliner of JAL. Have you done that? I don't remember which.
No, because the only times I've flown on JAL have been long haul from London, where they use the 777.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was flying to Helsinki, which is why I had the Dreamliner. I was in business class. There's no, of course, since I mentioned first class, again, I was not, guys, but there's no first class in these aircraft, which is why probably also the 777, because it has first class from London. You probably have to have first
Flagship
class.
route, yeah.
They have these seats that are, I think they are called the Apex seats. They are all forward facing, but everybody has aisle access due to the fact that the ones that are at the window are slightly ahead of the ones that are on the aisle. So you have a little passage for each seat. Yeah, I think a few airlines has it. I know that Ben Schlappig of 1 Mile at a Time says that's his favorite business class seats. Korean Air also has them. Interestingly, actually, Korean Air has them both in business and in first class, which, when you think of it, interesting, yeah. I like them. They're very nice. For a tall person, I had a bulkhead, so 1A. For a tall person like me, it's just not long enough. But I mean, it's a great seat. You're very secluded. However, there's also a divider with the person next to you. Again, the person next to you is slightly, if you're on the window seat, is slightly behind you. So you don't directly see him or her, but you see when the divider is down, you see the screen. So it's not fully private. Of course, as soon as the plane takes off, the divider goes up. There's no this awkwardness that British Airways has when you actually see the face. You just see screen. And probably if you're in the aisle part, you'll see the front of my legs and my screen as long as the divider is down. So, well, it's not perfectly private, but honestly, it's really nice. It creates a very strange style of dance with the crew, because the crew has to kind of shift towards a little passage to reach to me. But they have a little, that's where the seat maker was smart. There's a little table in front of the seat of that other passenger where they can put the tray before giving it to me, or they don't have to hold the whole thing through you. They can drop stuff, come to you, take back and give it to you. So it's not too bad. So talking about the crew, do you remember what were your thoughts about JAL's crew when you flew them?
I thought they were excellent. I thought they were really sweet. And given that we were in like basically we were literally in the last row of economy, I was really impressed with them. They were, this is going to sound like an awful word. They were cute in that sort of cartoony way, and not not in a attractive way, because it's not neither here nor there. They were just smiley always, giggly sometimes, attentive, talked in a whisper. I think they knew that we had a relationship with JAL, so we got a little bit of extra attention, but it was heartwarming.
It's funny you say that, because it's a bit what I felt. I find ANA, to compare with the other major Japanese airline, excellent and pretty cool tone of voice. I told you guys in the last episode, best memories last year was from Bangkok and back to watching the World Cup, and I had great interaction with the staff. The staff at JAL, it was my first time since 10 years, and my first international flight was really, and again, I don't know, using the word cute is maybe not the perfect, but they were really smiling, engaging, almost sometimes they were Japanese and non-Japanese. I don't know how to explain that. Yeah. It was really nice. I really liked it. There was a sense of confidence, maybe because they're the oldest Japanese airline, the ex or still national carrier. There was something that worked really well, and they were super cool with me. Of course, we had a lot of fun about them trying to pronounce my last name, and then I said a few words in Japanese, so they were so happy. And I don't know, there was something that really worked for me. They were really kind the whole way through, really, I don't know, almost... Because, Japanese crew are not known, especially to start making jokes with you, for instance, right? They did that. So did they feel comfortable? Especially one, but probably, that one that was doing that, she was the head of the cabin or something. And she probably had done this job for 30 years and she knew exactly how to address international passengers, had a great English, or probably maybe she felt comfortable doing it, but I loved it.
Yeah, it really brings the whole thing to life and moves in the opposite direction of what you were talking about earlier on Asiana, with this sort of slightly robotic, very good, but slightly robotic and soulless feel to the service.
The food was obviously great, which makes, because you just said that about Asiana, is really funny because I chose the Japanese option. Fantastic. When I had chosen the Korean option at Asiana, I remember the crew, she was so surprised that I would choose the Korean option. She actually couldn't help herself but saying, "Oh my God."
Really?
Yes. And I was like, is she happy that I'm choosing her national dish? Or is it because she's afraid I will not know how to eat that national dish because you have to mix all the stuff together? And but anyway, it was just interesting to see the comparison. The seat itself is really nice. I have one thing that I really adore that is a pet peeve of mine. Probably because maybe I'm told, the headrest?
Yeah.
When you start putting your seat slightly down, usually, I don't know, sometimes I take the pillow and I put it under my head because I want my head to be slightly more horizontal. Some you can actually, kind of push it with your hand. This one had a button and it would just go a little bit forward and it was perfect.
Really? Wow.
I know it's silly, but when you want to watch the movie, the screen is freaking in front of you. If your head is completely backwards, you cannot. So you either put some pillow or something to kind of compensate for the seat. And some seats, like you have to try to take this headrest and mess with it.
And they're so stiff that they are and by the time you've applied enough force to get it to move, it just goes all the way down to the other end.
Exactly.
Trying to get them in the middle is an impossibility. No, those things drive me nuts.
So this one has a button, so smart. That I really liked it. And the plushest napkin ever for the food. I don't know why, it felt like it was a duvet or something. It was so nice.
Wow.
And they give you these bottles, water bottle for once the service is done, and for the remainder of the flight they give you a bottle. And usually they're like small bottles of Evian or something. Here the bottle was, I'm not kidding, not 250 millimeters, not 330 millimeters, which is the usual, but 600 millimeters.
Wow, that's like
freaking huge.
Wow.
I like that, actually.
Less waste.
Because usually I request, especially if, it's a 12-hour flight, I would request a second one.
Absolutely.
So no, it was nice. We should actually invite one of these days, I think, your friend Dan Rubin, the photographer, because I want to know what he thinks about taking pictures from the window of a Dreamliner, because it's really hard. The Dreamliner are these hues, and because of these, the electronic type of, dimming, it creates great hues if you want to take fantastic pictures like mauve and whatever, but it's really hard to take clear pictures.
Yeah.
So maybe he has some tips he could give us. Maybe some of you guys, you know about it. I arrive at Helsinki, and that's... Helsinki is seeing some kind of refurbishment these days, a little bit. And the funny thing is what that entails in that you don't have a bridge. You have stairs. Yes, Helsinki stairs, December. It's -5, -10 degrees. And even though it's coming from Japan when it was December, so it's not the summer, I mean, I was not prepared for that at all.
Yeah. Last time I went to Helsinki on a 350 with Finnair, we had stairs.
Stairs.
Yeah. And
Yeah, see, I don't know. Is it from London?
from London, yeah.
Is it non-Schengen? It's bizarre.
I don't.
Because Finnair flies to all these destinations in Asia. They want to be the new Dubai for Asia. So stairs seem... I mean, again, it's not a huge issue. The airport is not that big. So you put in a bus and then the bus drives and it's okay. But you'd feel that an airport like Helsinki should be accommodating bridges. It's not like a 80 million.
Yeah, especially with long haul. I don't know. I think maybe they have run out of space.
So I was connecting to a BA flight. Helsinki Airport is very easy. It's a really nice airport to connect to. And I saw something. I don't know if it was there when you went there. There was a robot. And I saw this robot. You cannot miss it because there's robots all over the place. And it says 5G on the side. And it was like, what is that? Is it a cleaning machine? It's really hard to tell. And actually, the operator of the airport, along with one of the network operator, has done this robot that supposedly you can interact with or whatever. I'm not sure. Clearly mine, the one I saw, was being recharged, so I couldn't interact with it at all. It was lacking battery. But I'm never sure of these things, are they actually useful. Would you actually talk to a robot in an airport?
No, I've seen them in Japan in places like Dotonbori and Osaka, and they feel like just a gimmick. Total gimmick.
Exactly. No, absolutely. So there you go. And then I flew BA back. It was great. The poor BA crew had to leave the door open while the aircraft was being refueled. The guys were actually freezing to death.
Oh, they've got to stand there.
You know, what can you do? And that will be the last bit. They made, I don't know if that ever happened to you. You know, they start talking in English, and then, you know, because they're in Finland, you know, they usually play a local track, and that's, you know, they press play. Only that they press play, and all of us look at each other. This is not Finnish. This is Dutch, and they leave it go for like 20 seconds. People start laughing and everything. Suddenly, like, oops, they're going to be, oops, sorry for that. you can see scrambling, find the right track. Anyway, it's just, but I found it really funny that and you know, you look at each other, it's like, you know, I don't speak Finn, but this is not how it should sound.
Exactly.
My mother was from Finland, but I don't speak Finn. I only know the curse words, so that's not in the. It's never going to be in a PA announcement. But yeah, anyway, it was really fun. Yeah, so that was it. That was really, Ethiopian was a highlight, JAL was a highlight, Asiana was also, I would fly them again because I'm star. So all of this was really, really a nice flight. But the best bit is the one I didn't mention. When we were taking off from Narita, there was clear skies, views on the Mount Fuji with Tokyo on the foreground. It was the most beautiful sight, and it's always the case when I fly out of Japan. I always have amazing sights. This one was the most beautiful, so I can't wait to go back just to have an even better picture next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And when the light's right, and when you're obviously on the right side of the airplane going in the right direction, it's breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. Especially this time of year when it's usually very, very clear.
You know what? It made me because at that point where we're taking off, I was not pissed off is an exaggeration because I like to exaggerate, but I was like, there's no air vents on the Dreamliners of JAL. And so I was like, where are the air vents? And suddenly I look out and there's
Fuji.
Mount Fuji, and I forgot about everything. I was like, it's fine. I'm good. So there you go, guys. That was a bit long, but you have like the story. I will fly, and I encourage you guys to fly Ethiopian if you can, and JAL, and Asiana, and tell us what you think about all these airlines, and Frankfurt as well. Although, again, their new tagline is, do not come to the airport. So... Alex Ostreicher at Value Deck.
Yes.
Second time in a row we mention it because he's been interacting with us. He was listening to our previous show. Listening to you guys and hearing about how awful some passenger can be reminded me of this. And he has a picture, probably Hong Kong Airlines, I'm not sure, in business class when you see someone with their feet up on the bulkhead wall with no socks. He adds, this is when you're in lie flat business class but still want to be disgusting.
Nailed it.
Oh my God. I'm guilty of sometimes putting my feet up to the bulkhead hole because I'm told, but never, ever without socks.
Yeah, that's gross.
That's gross. Do you think, since we mentioned the lounge ones last episode, do you think there should be etiquette for how to behave in a flight?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Absolutely. And I don't know if it needs to be published in the way that Cathay do their lounge stuff, but maybe it does. I don't know. We all of our manners and common courtesy seem to go out the window more often on airplanes than anywhere else I can think of.
It's true, actually. You're right. Not us.
No,
We're pretty well behaved, I think.
Reasonably.
I think, yeah, reasonably. If you ever see us misbehaving in a flight, just call us out. Things were in Asia and talking about Asian airlines. China Eastern and Malaysian Airlines are segmenting even further the seats. We've had premium economy. They're introducing something called premium business.
What does that even mean?
I don't know what they offer more, but it's first class minus, I guess. I don't know. But don't you think that it's the future in a way that we're seeing that more and more segmentation? You will say Alex wants to have premium economy without food because he doesn't care, and this other guy will want business class without food, but this other guy wants.
I can't imagine that that's worth
I don't know.
of the airlines. I mean, I would much rather have a comfortable seat than would I? I don't know. No, I think I hope not. I guess is probably my initial reaction. It just seems too much of a pain in the butt.
I don't have the full extent of whether it's a different seat or whether it's a different service within the same hard product. I don't know.
And then I think that's even sillier if it is.
At least you can agree that premium economy seemed to be quite popular, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think premium, like my strategy, if I ever want to get upgraded, is premium economy because they're usually very small cabins, which I've always wondered why they always seem sold out to the point where I'm very often upgraded. It just seems like, and I'm also surprised that more airlines don't have a premium economy cabin.
There was an article, I think, a month or two ago that says 2019 will be the year of premium economy, as in a lot of airlines that don't have it will start installing it. We know that Emirates is looking into it.
Yeah, I've been talking about it for a couple of years now.
It's good news and bad news. Good news because I like premium economy. Bad news because if you're in economy and get upgraded, you're not getting upgraded in business class. You get upgraded only in premium economy.
True.
But I mean, I don't want to say bad news. I say the luck that you're being upgraded of courtesy upgrades is rarer and rarer, but at least you would have gotten that golden ticket to go like
exactly
from really meh experience to like, oh wow, here I'm a king in front of the aircraft. Southwest, we talked about Southwest last episode. Kelly reiterated and promised we're never going to introduce basic economy and we're never going to introduce back fees. It's nice to know.
It is nice to know. And we talked about this when we were talking about Herb Kelleher in the last episode, that this has always been their differentiator is customer centricity. And it's nice to know that they're sticking to that when so many other airlines are exploring, U.S. airlines especially, are exploring and implementing basic economy, which is literally just access to the seat, not even access to the overhead bins in some instance.
Yeah. That's why I was earlier talking about this premium business thing, is that this segmentation of fares seem to be something that some of the US carriers love. You seem to have like 25 different fares for the same seat. And sometimes you have food and maybe one you have 2 peanuts and the other one you have only 1. But you know what? It creates a bit of, I don't know. Isn't that more difficult on the crew inside the aircraft because they have to differentiate between people that seemingly are in the same cabin.
And also exactly, and that's kind of to the point that I was trying to make earlier. And also you have instances where you're going to have 2 people sitting next to each other. One gets a lovely meal and the other doesn't. And perhaps, we're not all fare and revenue management experts. So that person go, well, why do they get food and I don't?
It was the case actually on when I flew Sebgo, that airline boutique airline that I flew, the ATR that I flew from. In the Philippines. I had got it, to be honest, I didn't even realize it when I bought it. It was months ago. I bought a fare that included a sandwich, right? So I was giving that sandwich, but the person next to me, seated like in the same row, whatever, because there's no such thing as business class or whatever. The person next to me didn't get a sandwich, but I had started opening his tray table expecting a sandwich, and the crew had to explain to him that no, your fare doesn't include, you need to pay one. Eurowings was the same story. When I was flying Eurowings to Berlin, on one of the ways, because I wanted to see how it worked, I had added the 20 euros or whatever that is to actually get that the food included. And same thing, the person next to me didn't have it, and they had to explain to her, I think she was a she, why I would get some food and not her.
It feels like one of those things that's just an unnecessary inconvenience for the crew to have to deal with.
From food to alcohol, since we were talking about this drunken Brit in the lounge earlier, another drunken, but sadly this was a pilot, a JAL pilot actually, and I flew JAL, but from Heathrow to Tokyo, entered the aircraft and was challenged by the crew, went to the lavatories to put some mouthwash to kind of hide the fact that he was completely plastered. He was 10 times over the limit.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. And he was sentenced to 10 months in prison. I think here in the UK, actually.
Yeah, and obviously he'll lose his license, and that's his career done.
It was a big upheaval in Japan because I think even the parliament asked Japan Airlines to get a grip on this, and I think there was 19 cases since August 2017 where Japan Airlines pilots had failed the company's alcohol tests, which is, I mean, it's 19 times too many.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, thank God, again, people are, the crew and other people did actually, challenge the guy, but 10 times. And that was 10 times the morning of the flight, which meant the night before. I don't want to see. There was some Suntory whiskey at Heathrow that he found. Like overstocking them.
And also, I mean, not to paint with broad strokes here, but, there have been incidents in the past where junior, quote unquote, members of the crew felt unable to question the leadership of the captain or decisions of the captain. And that's not just Japan, that's some other Southeast Asian or North Asian countries as well. So it's encouraging that the crew felt able to intervene in what is a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, because there were instances in the past, I'm not talking about alcohol, but there was before the introduction of crew management courses and trainings, where in some cultures you didn't dare challenging a superior, in the case here the captain or the pilot, and that led to, I think, Korean Air had many incidents, accidents,
and Asiana.
Yeah. If you're a passenger and you're too drunk and you're causing disruption, we've talked about this ad nauseum with Alex, should the airlines have blacklists, etc., etc. Well, WestJet has decided to sue one of the passengers that did that. It was quite recent. I think it was from Calgary to London. There was one passenger that went completely insane, batshit, because he was completely wasted. And they said, you know what, we're going to sue you for $65,000, which doesn't even fully cover the cost for meal vouchers, passenger compensation, hotel costs for some of the passengers, and missed connect flights. WestJet says that they don't have the full picture. They think the overall cost is $200,000. Imagine one guy, $200,000, but they're going to sue him for $65,000. What do you think about that?
I think even if it's a symbolic gesture, it's a very strong signal as well that this won't be tolerated, and nor should it be. Where it ends up, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think, because it's more about we're taking this seriously, and you cannot be absolved of responsibility for poor decision making. So I think kudos to them.
Yeah, I agree. Did you not send, I don't have it in front of me in the notes, did you not send me an article about we don't realize how much alcohol we drink when we're flying?
Yes, it wasn't even an article. It was a thread on Flyer Talk in the BA one about what people's drinking strategies were or habits, and I couldn't get over. I thought I was bad for having a couple of glasses of, I've stopped drinking, but a couple of glasses of champagne and maybe a glass of wine with dinner on the plane. No, I am a pedestrian compared to, I couldn't get over it. And I think that there's something about airports and airplanes that just enables this type of behavior, which just ends badly for everybody.
Not for everybody. Look, I mean, again, I've never been a flight that had to go back or rerouted because of somebody who was completely plastered, but that would make me very angry.
Me too. Oh my God, it would That would make me angry too.
Absolutely. So I don't know whether or not the IAG board meeting is drinking a lot in flight or not, but they decided not to acquire or to try to acquire Norwegian.
Yes, and they've sold their stake in it or are in the process of selling. But they did always say from the get-go that if they couldn't acquire it fully, then they would
sold. Whether I think they have had almost 5%.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah,
which is very interesting. I don't know if that's because they have. I think they've tried like 6 times now to buy it, and they've been rebuffed. Whether this is them going, okay, well, let's move on, or if they have now seen something that makes them think that Norwegian is not going to be around for much longer, or at least in its current incarnation. I don't know. I'm glad. I think they are a worthy and necessary competitor for BA on a lot of their routes, especially to New York. So we'll see.
The stock of Norwegian tanked after this news, obviously, but it already, like you hinted at, already some difficulties. For instance, they already had scrapped lounge access for premium economy passengers at Norwegian. So they're probably not in the best situation.
No, they seem to be not on thin ice, but I think that they're trying to figure out how they can keep this thing afloat. They're pulling in a bunch of their routes. They're closing crew bases in 5 or 6 European cities to try and, I think, just cut costs. So, I mean, I want them to succeed. I want them to do well. In
the same breath, and talking about thin ice, though I don't remember there's such thing as thin ice in Iceland, but WOW Air is even in a worse situation. They had expanded a lot of cities everywhere, whatever, and basically now they're backtracking to a very tiny, small airline because they will only have, I think, no more than 4 cities in the US, and that's about it. And they are also on the verge of disappearing.
Yeah, and they had that disastrous merger with Iceland Air that was and then wasn't after Iceland Air lifted the lid on the finances. I think they will not last through 2019.
That's possible. The other one that was about not to last is FlyBe, which is a carrier based here in the UK. They have a lot of financial difficulties, and they were bought for a very meager sum by, who was it? Virgin Atlantic and some group of investors, I think.
Yeah, interestingly, one of them, Cyrus Capital, was one of the first and biggest investors in Virgin America as well, which really surprised me, actually, that they would re-enter a relationship with the Virgin Group. But it's being challenged by one of FlyBe's current biggest shareholders, so they'll have to see. We'll have to see how this actually ends up. I'm sure it'll go through. I think that consortium has put in a few extra caveats to protect shareholders and also employees. So we'll see. But that would be good. It would be good to see FlyBe continue and expand even.
I think they had invested in an IT system that proved a disaster. They lost millions. They also had bought, what was the name? Loganair, the Scottish airline. And that also was actually an operation that didn't turn out to be that great. They lost a lot of money. Of course, now there's Brexit that creates uncertainty, but it's a necessary and nice airline to have. It has a network that is complementary to a lot of the big ones, and it would be really sad to see them disappear, and also for us simply living here and having less competition.
Yeah, it would be. And I think that they're going to mortgage some slots at Heathrow and Gatwick to try and shore up the finances. But I think they had 10 years of being not brilliantly managed, so I hope that those days are over.
And they were bought for about £3 million, which is a penance, which is absolutely nothing. Yeah. But then again, apparently they are losing money at a rate of £7,000 an hour.
Jiminy Cricket.
Oh, wow. But you know what? They had saved some of the jobs from Monarch FlyBe, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They had bought some of the engineering staff from Monarch. So yeah, EasyJet is also seeing actually some numbers that are not great. So should we use the big R term for 2019? I don't know. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everybody talks about a recession, even though there's not one. At some point, it will become, because people then say, okay, then we'll stop investing
into it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we talk exactly. United, on the other hand, thank God, they announced like they were like doing a great quarter. So I hope that actually kind of reignites the say, no, there's no recession coming. So. Yeah. So more feedback on Twitter from _Thomas_R_M. So I'm just going to call you Tom or Thomas. Hey guys, just wanted to reach out and let you know that regional pilot salaries, and that's in the US, have gone up quite a bit over the past few years. 45 to 60K for new hires. Source training from our commercial license and old flight instructors that worked at regional. So that's to the comment we said last time about...
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. Well, good.
Yeah, good news. At Johnny Walker on Twitter, and your name on Twitter is in Cyrillic, so I'm not going to even attempt to say it. I'm going to call you Johnny. As reacted to our story, to my story actually, about the ATR, the little plug hole I was supposed to put a sharp object into open, and says that regulations are very different for turboprops under a flight level 250. The depressurization at that level is not that taxing on the body, especially on an emergency descent. And he says that, for instance, the Dash Q400 and the Fokker 50 do not have passenger masks at all. So is that the reason why it would be so hard to open them? Then Ed Parsons, our friend Ed Parsons, a long-time listener, says that isn't that the secondary way of opening in case they don't drop down? And it's true that if you look at like even 320s, you have this plug hole to try to open them in case they don't open as they should be. The only thing is that in my ATR, the PA announcement clearly stated that was the only way, or at least that's why I understood, and I heard it twice. So I don't know, man. I still don't know, but possibly I wouldn't have needed an oxygen mask at all, according to Johnny. Ed adds, and he's so right, he says that he always travels with, the little SIM eject hole thing.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, and then I realized that, of course, I had that in my wallet. So I had actually a sharp object to open that. I would have forgotten about it, but I have one, indeed.
How funny.
In Japan, ANA, the Trent, our friends at Trent, have you seen the story of that flight? Upon landing, the pilots put the reverse thrusters and the engines just stopped.
Jeez. Those engines are a liability. I just read that Norwegian are replacing all of the engines on all of their Dreamliners.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Who's paying for that? Rolls-Royce?
Yeah, it has to be. Because the Trent 1000 situation is just extraordinary. It's absolutely unbelievable that it's still gone on. We're years now. It's been years since this has gone on. And if that had happened on this ANA flight 30 seconds earlier, you'd be the same situation as that BA flight at Heathrow 10 years ago, where both engines stopped on final because of ice in the fuel, one of the fuel lines, and it landed short. And I don't think anybody was killed, but the plane was a write-off and people were injured. It's just beyond comprehension at this stage.
They say for that particular story, they say that the engineers couldn't find a fault on the engines when they checked. And it might have been a software glitch, which is not really reassuring because you press a button and the engine stop. I mean, what? I don't know. And I don't even know. So, hey, here, who's at fault?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Who's designed the thing? Is it Boeing? Is it Rolls-Royce? I have no idea, man. Yeah. Anyway, well, I don't want to think about that when I fly my next Dreamliner. Yeah. And to probably one of the best feedback we've gotten, we're talking about doctors in a plane, and we totally forgot that we have actually a doctor listening to us for quite a long time, Matt Freeman, and he wrote us. He says that he answered the call for if there was a doctor on board about 8 or 9 times, most of the case on the Continental or United. And how was he thanked for that? They have always sent a thoughtful and personalized letter with some miles. I think it was perhaps 20,000 miles. Not inconsequential, but not a free first-class trip around the world. And I've been given a few bottles of wine by the crew as well.
Wow. So there you have it. That's very interesting.
He mentions the story of there was a cardiologist who had sent a bill to American Airlines for assisting an ill passenger. And he had, I have words I could use to describe this cardiologist, but such language is inappropriate for a podcast.
Jeez. Yeah, I agree. Oh, my God. Unbelievable.
And to your point, Alex, about the fact that, you remember you said that they had like this remote sensors thing that you mentioned from Virgin Atlantic?
Yes.
He says some airlines have something called Air Care or Doctor Now, in which someone in flight can consult with an emergency physician on the ground. He's never had to use them. And he had some details. He says that usually The episodes that he had to deal with were always about the same. A passenger loses consciousness while exiting the washroom, but he also had one passenger with a stroke, another one with atrial fibrillation. Oh, wow. And at least 2 with panic attacks. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And he also treated once a flight attendant who got hit by a heavy cart during turbulence.
Wow.
Wow.
That's,
well, Matt, thank you so much.
That's so fascinating. Thank you for taking the time to get in touch.
The toughest part of it all is the spectacle. One wants to be quiet, dignified, and private, but it's a plane. I especially recall having to sit on a jump seat in a 757 with a sick guy. The seat faces the entire economy class cabin. I was trying to treat him while a couple of hundred people watched.
Oh, jeez. You never want an audience.
In every instance, the flight attendants weren't just good, they were amazing. They knew that the most important skill is to underreact. They kept everything calm, organized, and admire their poise. Yeah, that's what I said as well about my B experience. The crew was amazing. So thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for providing us with such information.
Super interesting.
So, to the airport, because Alex needs to fly. When are you flying? This afternoon?
Yes.
Tonight?
This afternoon, yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it in the next episode. Though I have a little thing to say about Mexico at the very end of this show when we're closing it. So first, Gimpo. So Gimpo is an international airport. It was the international airport for a long time. Then when Incheon opened in 2001, because Incheon is not such an old airport, it's reclaimed land, everything was transferred to Incheon, and Gimpo lost its international stature, but got it back, I think in 2006 or so, I don't remember exactly. It started doing some routes. I think the first route was Haneda, actually, the one I did. There's also routes now to Beijing, Shanghai, Kansai, KIX, Taipei, obviously, as well. So some international route. It was, to talk about the dark time of the country, the airport was actually built by the Japanese forces when they were occupying the peninsula. Then it was used during the Korean War by the United Nations, of course, the Americans, as a military base, and then it became the airport it is. So it is an airport for about 25 million people. So it's not a small airport. It has 2 terminals. One is domestic and one is, as I just said, international, though there's not a lot of international flights again. The one thing, though, that is very interesting about this airport, from this airport, there is the most crowded flight path on Earth. It is Jeju to Gimpo and Gimpo to Jeju. I think it's almost 14 million passengers a year or something. It's absolutely huge. The second one would be Melbourne to Sydney, and then you have Fukuoka to Haneda, Sapporo to Haneda, and then Beijing to Shanghai. But the first, according to IATA and other sources, OAG as well, is Jeju to Gimpo. It's a very short flight, actually. I think it's 280 miles.
Yeah, it's not too far at all.
But it is, for that, an important airport. It is also a bit out of the city, but it's less out than Incheon.
I was just going to say that. That was my reaction when I went there with my family, is going on the train from Incheon to Seoul. You're like, this is just never ending. And then you go past Gimpo.
Exactly. You go past Gimpo.
Let's fly out of there.
No, actually, you know what? And that's the horrible quirk of it is, it is closer. Just look at it on the map. It's on the way to Incheon and it's closer. The only problem is that that same train you took, Alex, you have the direct one from Incheon to Seoul that takes about, 35 minutes it took you to go to the city? 40 minutes?
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly. If you want to stop at Gimpo, you have to take the commuter, so the regional one, and that's the only one that leaves from Gimpo to Seoul, which means that actually in terms of train time, you'll be also very, very long because it had a lot of stops before reaching the center of Seoul. So that's a bit, with a car, obviously, or a taxi, it's less, again, depending on traffic. And traffic sometimes towards that region can be heavy, so it's a bit closer. But that train is also useful to know, you guys, because if you want to transfer from an international flight at Incheon to a domestic flight at Gimpo, it's actually very much feasible. It takes about 30 minutes with a train, or about the same with a car. So it's actually very feasible. So don't be afraid if you have to switch airports, because it's really not a pain at all. Really not a pain at all. But yeah, it's closer to the city, but by train it's not that close. Actually, no. You have also a subway. I don't remember, line 9 or 5 that goes there. I think that's what I took when I was going there. It was actually in February 2009. So I told you, almost 10 years ago. I only know the international terminal is pretty nice, pretty straightforward, no difficult at all. My memory of it is not the full picture because I know that in the meantime they've refurbished, so it must be even better than it used to be. Of course, the flagship lounges will be at Incheon, but for domestic with the Korean Air or Asiana, you'll find them at Terminal 1, nowadays called simply Domestic Terminal. It is a potent airport. It is not a bad airport. If I were to do a layover there, I would go to the city because it's not too far, because there's not that many things to do at the airport. But one thing, there is a massive observation deck.
Nice.
But, and that's the only caveat, the observation deck is neither on top of Terminal 1, neither on top of Terminal 2, is on the building which sits in the middle. You cannot miss it. There's a building in the middle. You can simply walk to it. It's I don't remember the name, but basically it's the Airport Operator of Korea. On top of that building, you have a massive observation deck, both indoors if it rains and outdoors. I think you need to call them before to book on the website, but probably they accept walk-ins because not a lot of people know about it. It's very easy to get to. And because of the location of that building between the two terminals, you actually have probably the best views because you can see the entire apron and both of the runways. So that's a really cool thing to be doing. And one last thing about Gimpo is when I was looking at when I flew there, I found the ticket receipt from my ANA flight from Haneda to Gimpo. And I had paid for a return flight back 10 years ago, $600. And I was like, exactly. And now there's a lot of low costs. And I'm like, thank God the low cost exists because I was really, guys, we're talking economy. I was 28G or something because I still have the boarding pass. And we're not talking about something extremely plush. Very happy that a lot of low cost nowadays exists because that's expensive, man. I didn't realize that I paid that much.
Wow.
So you're going to Mexico. So let's finish with that. The ad of Aero Mexico.
Oh my goodness, this was so good. Just basically trolling Americans and who have a built-in disdain and prejudice towards Mexico by getting them to take a DNA test, and whatever percentage of their DNA heritage was Mexican was the discount that they would get on the flights to Mexico on Aeromexico. And it was so clever. It was so clever, especially in the current American political climate. I loved it. I thought it was very clever.
Would you consider going to Mexico? No way! You're 22% Mexican. That's BS. You get a discount. What about if I want to take my wife?
I know.
It's so funny. I love this ad.
It's so clever.
It's trolling, but it's so cool.
Kudos to them.
Yeah, kudos to them. So you're flying Aero Mexico. I hope it's going to be what you expect it to be. So what do you expect it to be?
I have absolutely no idea. I know that it's Dreamliners. They have a fairly large fleet of Dreamliners. The only place I ever see them is in Shanghai because they have a Shanghai-Tijuana route.
Tijuana? Wow.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's always made me giggle, but it exists. And I have, it's a 787-8. I'm in an economy. It's a long flight. Obviously, it's 12 hours. We get in at 4 a.m., go straight into filming. So I don't know. I will report back because I have absolutely no expectations.
You were telling me that the price you're asking for upgrade is outrageous.
Yeah, they use this plus grade system, which a lot of airlines use for you to bid on an upgrade. And I've never actually, I don't think I ever have it, not with any success anyway. But the minimum price that one can bid for an upgrade was £1,000 each way.
My God, that's a lot of money, man.
It's a lot of money, and you know, I don't know if the product is that good. So, of course, I've said, no, I am going to try my luck at the airport and see if there's any opportunities there. But
they don't have a premium economy, though.
They do not.
Right?
No.
Okay. At least you have were you able to snag a good seat?
I don't know. I think so.
What do you mean?
I don't know if it's going to be good. It doesn't look like there's anybody sitting in between us. It looks like when I last checked on Expert Flyer, the flight looked pretty empty.
Oh,
so we'll see. We'll see what it turns out to be like in the end.
That's good. Yeah, Expert Flight is a tool I keep using.
Me too.
When I was doing these Asian flight I mentioned, but also the one I'm flying because I'm leaving, as you guys know, to San Francisco via Dubai and Hong Kong, and then back to Dubai. Actually, when this is going to be released, I'll be, as I told you guys, in San Francisco. I have one of the flights with Cathay. I think it's the San Francisco, Hong Kong. I don't have a window seat because there's none yet. So I keep putting the alerts, hoping
are so useful.
that something, yeah, I mean, and that's how you know that sometimes, like you said, that some aircraft seem to be empty. Though that's not always, because sometimes it just means that they're empty and then suddenly, like the last day, everything fills up like super quickly.
Yeah.
But at least, yeah, it's a great tool. I keep recommending to even non-AV geek friends that it's a great tool to pay for if you fly a lot, because you can really snag nice seat. That's how, again, on Asiana, I didn't have a window seat. The alert went, oh, there's a window seat. I went there a minute later, and indeed, there it was. I had it. It was great. Yeah, absolutely great.
It's a great tool, and it's cheap.
So, Alex, safe travels to you. I hope you're going to eat yourself stupid. That's the word you used about when we talked about it 2 episodes ago. So eat yourself stupid, gain a lot of weight, and see you whenever you come back.
Yes, and thank you, and enjoy California.
Thank you. Safe travel, guys.
Happy travels, guys.